Okay, do we get How's everybody doing? We're here to quick fire some questions. You guys send them some questions to Emily on Instagram or somewhere else, but we're here to just, fire through and give you guys some insights from me and Andrew. Subscribe here for more videos. So, Emily's behind the camera. She's going to be listing off the questions, and then Andrew and I will just blast through them.
What is the most important life lesson you've ever learned?
I think I'll start, but I thought about this, right? Because in 2018, I got in a surfing accident. Surfing accident turned into something more serious. I got blood clots in my lungs.
Forgot about that.
Remember, and so the life lesson there was, honestly, leading up to that point, right? I was 26, 27, we were pregnant with Zion, and all of a sudden, in like a day, after that all happened, and the doctor came in and said, hey, listen, buddy, this is so serious, there's this life-threatening, so when that happened, and I was alone in the hospital that night, Emily had to go home, and her mom came by, and it was just me, and the life lesson there was, Daniel, like, you gotta live for something more. There's more, there's more that I want to do for you, but you gotta plug in and really, live for me so that I can live through you.
I think my life lesson, it's like a phrase coming to me. Leaders are called to be humble. God, I feel like over the years is just really emphasized, like, humility is actually powerful. Like, you have to be humble to be exalted. And I think leaders just need to be humble. And that's actually going to transform the world. It's going to transform cities, your family, your workplace, your school. So leaders that are willing to serve in humility, it's like something I want to work on, I want to become,
What are some male insecurities? What are insecurities that guys have?
I think guys have a bunch of
insecurities. Yeah, I think it's actually very, I'm sure that there's a lot of similarity to the insecurities that girls have, right? I mean, am I good enough for this person? Am I living up to my true vocation? Am I a good father? Should I do things differently? Am I doing this correct? Am I a good husband? I'm insecure about work. Like, am I making enough money? Do people feel that I'm doing a good job? Do they respect me for that?
I mean, I always struggle with, like, caring what people think, like, all the time. And even growing up, and it's still, like, something I'm still working on, is like, I mean, it was difficult to love myself and my body, because I'm like this skinny little dude, and as a guy growing up, you gotta be benching, like 600 pounds, to be like a real guy. Body insecurities are not just women things. I mean, this is like a lot of guys, but it's because we're being bombarded as well as women with their own, ideas of what a perfect woman. Like, we're supposed to be these just jacked, like,
and make a lot of money and have everything taken care of, everything's dialed in.
Yeah, and that's what a woman really wants. And that's really debilitating. So I've had to work through that over the years and accept the body that God gave me. And honestly, there's a lot of perks for this little body. When I'm in, like, coach, like on a plane, like, it's like first class. I can fit anywhere when I'm traveling. It's like my clothes are probably cheaper because they're smaller. I mean, there's some benefits. You know what I mean? My mom would always tell me, like, Andrew, great things come in small packages. I'm like, yeah, whatever, Mom. And then I think some great things do.
Okay.
What can I do to make a man feel appreciated, whether he's my friend or my boyfriend or husband?
Yeah, I mean,
what makes you feel appreciated as a man who cannot be in a romantic relationship? Like, as a seminarian, as a guy friend, like, what can girls do to make their guy friends feel appreciated?
Yeah, I think even just having, like, healthy, whole friendships in the Catholic Christian faith. I'm always just really encouraged with just, women that I'm in conversation with when they're just really listening and, like, hearing me out with, like, how's seminary, how things are going through, and then kind of hearing, like, they're praying for me. That really does, matter. As a seminarian and even as a priest, one day that's what God's calling me to. We're not supposed to just, like, not talk to women ever. We have to find a way to have healthy friendship. I mean, think of that with the saints. They had friendships with saints, male and female, priests and nuns, that were, like, healthy and real and encouraging. So, yeah, I think, I have so many amazing women in my life, like moms, wives, friends, so many different vocations, age ranges, and I'm just always so encouraged when it's just like a conversation. They're just hearing how everything's going, letting me know that they're there and praying and, like, interceding. I guess just like a ministry of presence is a real thing. Women just acknowledging that, like, hey, we see that, you're discerning the priesthood here, and we're here to encourage you. That's kind of helpful for me.
Do you have anything to add?
I mean, I love really great, food too.
What inspired your desire to become men of God, like men who love their faith?
So I don't think there was something that like inspired me. It was more like a call in my heart to be that, right? Like it's inherently what I feel that I'm truly called to, right? To be as a beloved son of God, right? To live out my faith, and as a man, whatever else that entails, to live that out as well. And so I don't think there wasn't that one moment that inspired me to become a man of faith. I think over time, the Lord is tugging on my heart, and the more and more I realize the love He has for me, the more, love I am open to receive, and I allow myself open to receive, so that I can pour that, to my family and friends and the people around us. So
I think I had a lot of examples actually. My priest, my parish priest, my dad, other just men, my youth minister. I just had examples of men who were living out their faith that were like real men. Mm-hmm. And obviously in high school it was like, threw that image out of the picture because it just seemed like a waste of time and not real. And then I think after my conversion back to faith, I was like, whoa, like this is what it means to be a man, to live a virtuous life, to live a life for others, to live a life of service, and to really defend life and to protect and to fight for something good. Like men are designed to fight for something good. Yeah. Like there's not, even people who do evil, it's sometimes, Aquinas would talk about it, it's a perceived good. So I think at the deepest core of man, it's to fight for goodness. And I just found that when I was actually with a group of guys, like, even knowing Daniel and other friends in the Catholic faith, it was a different brotherhood, even at Franciscan, being with guys in AMDG. When we were trying to live out holiness and fighting for something good, it was so much more encouraging than the friends I was with that was just, I remember there's just watch porn together, or like, who you're hooking up with tonight, or what drug are you doing? It was such a empty, boring, like never calling anything out of me, never calling me to anything great. Just coasting, Yeah. And then I think like once I found like my Catholic faith and was in a group of men that are pursuing holiness, dude, it's like adventurous, it's difficult, it's a battle,
It's real. That's the thing, right? I mean, you just know that the conversation that you're having, like between us and the friends that we have, but the conversations that truly have meaning to it, like the conversation that I know are, going to enrich me just by having these conversations, by getting challenged to live my faith, deeper and more, and also being encouraged by seeing you and people truly into their faith. That's the kind of guys I want to be around. That's the kind of guys I want to learn from.
What is one way you challenge each other, or what's one way that you like cultivate a good friendship between the two of you as men?
I think that the first thing is honesty, right? I think it's very honest between you and I.
Honesty.
Yeah, it's just whatever's going on, the good and the bad, you discuss it. You just lay it out there, and that your brother's listening, and he's gonna just give you true and honest feedback and advice. And Andrew and I and two other guys, we've actually developed our own quote unquote rule that we live by, right? So it's our own rule. We call our own baseline rule that allows us to eventually go through the narrow gate, so to say. We're striving, we're living for something more. It's a rule that allows us to hold each other accountable and know that we as men should be stepping up to the plate, and we want to step up to the plate. We want to go to that next level, and therefore hold each other accountable and then discuss the good and the bad, how that's going, and what we're doing. And I think it's just challenging each other, but also just having friendship and having a lot of laughs, having a very good time, going surfing, hanging out, just being bros, So
yeah, I think the holiness thing gets so like,
if we're a friend, we can just, we only go and pray and sit on our knee, and that's the beauty. And we do that too, right? And that is awesome. But it's so much more than just
totally. Yeah, we go to mass. We're going to worship events. We're reading content. We're talking about the books we're reading, the spiritual reading we're reading, and it's like honesty, the accountability. And I was just even thinking too, like as men, we hate to acknowledge that we're weak, but Daniel knows like my weaknesses, and I know his, and he knows my strengths, and I know his. And St. Paul wanted people to know forever that he boasts in his weakness, because God spoke to him and even said, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. So if men, you could acknowledge that you're weak and you need a brother's help, dude, it's transforming when you're honest. And when you're able to be like, yo, I'm struggling with this, or like, hey, I fell to lust here, or I looked at something I shouldn't have looked at, and you have a brother that's there to like be present, to listen and encourage you. And you say, yeah, dude, we have a bunch of fun. Like we're balling, we're hanging with the kids, we're like eating food.
Yeah.
It's like you live life.
Yeah,
you know, it's
exactly.
not like we're just in a cave like fasting and praying all day. You know?
Yeah.
That's the Catholic life. It's living brotherhood and fellowship, you know, to the full. It's just very freeing even to know, like, I don't need to be anyone else with Daniel and Emily. Like, I think Catholic masculine friendships, like, you're allowed to be you.
Yeah.
And I'm weird and crazy sometimes, you know, and I want to talk about nutrition way too much and eat organic food.
Yeah.
And so I think there's that acceptance that's huge too.
Yeah, and I think the last thing, like iron sharpens iron, right? You know, that's what we as men need. You know, we need men to hold us accountable, but we also need men to you know, if you're doing a great job, great, but if you're not doing, you know, if you're going off the beaten path, we need guys that, you know, slap us in the face and say, hey, listen, dude, you got to man up and you got to step up to the plate. What are you doing? You know what I mean? And honestly and truly say that.
That's it.
That's great. Why are men so afraid to be vulnerable? Because what you're saying when you're saying we're honest with each other really means we're vulnerable with each other.
I feel because there is this persona, this image of a guy that has to be strong. He has to be, you know, he has to be physically strong. He has to be mentally strong. He has to lead. He has to. There's this persona of this is what a man in the world should be, and she should be and do all these things. But to show vulnerability is to show weakness, and I mean it's something I struggle with. I still struggle with that a lot. Is to show that weakness, but in that weakness is where I am strong. You know what I mean? Through my weakness is where I become strong, right? If I don't work on my weaknesses, you know, those are the parts I need to improve, and those are the parts that should get looked at, and those are the parts I want Andrew and my brothers, you know, to help me and encourage me on to do those things. But it's difficult. What do you think? Like, how do you?
I feel like men are terrified to let people know that they're afraid.
Yeah.
And I think if we were to let people know, like, actually what we feel, which mostly maybe is, like, obviously some developmental things with our fathers. Maybe they shut down you crying when you're a kid. There's life experiences that can explain this hardening of heart that I think a lot of men experience. But, man, when I see, like, a priest, like, cry and when he's preaching, or, like, see a dad, like, really, like, share with, you know, his son or daughter, like, how, like, excited and how much he loves, you know, his kid, and he's like, you know, really affectionate. To me, that's like an integrated human being, you know? So I think it's a lot of just fear. Like, we're scared to be, you know, vulnerable, because it's like you open up this part of the masculine heart that in the world just shuts down.
Yeah. I
mean, in every movie that you watch, I mean, name a place where a man is vulnerable and he's affirmed about that.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's not made fun of.
And he's not made fun of.
Exactly.
Everywhere that, in whatever movie, show, Netflix series you're watching, there's no place where it's authentic masculinity. It's guys, you know, either just drinking beer, going partying, watching football, not actually really showing that, like, hey, there's this part of the masculine heart that needs to be vulnerable in order to be authentic.
Yeah, I imagine.
And I think when I see men and fathers, and even like yourself and Emily, like, there is something so powerful about vulnerability. And God made me like a very sensitive person. Like, I'm so many different levels. I'm just a sensitive creature. And I remember being so angry at that. Like, God, why would you make me like that? And I even, just in some prayer time on a retreat recently I was just on, Jesus literally said to me while I was praying, like, in this, using Ignatian imagination, this is your gift. I gave you this as a gift. So, men, if you, like, feel, you know, like you need to share some things, or like vulnerability scares you, that's probably a sign that you're closing doors to your heart that need to be opened. And I'd encourage you to, like, step out, whether that's with your spouse or a guy friend or a relationship you're in. Like, hey, this scares the crap out of me. Commitment's freaky. Let's talk about it. I mean, it would cause so much healing, I think, in the world if men could be a little bit more vulnerable with what they're afraid of, you know. And I think we're just at a deep level designed to be open to one another, and then also be affirmed of that. Like, if you were to share something with me that was deep, it's like, yeah, I would accept it and not be like, oh, bro, you're weak, dude, or you're like whatever name you want to call. Which in high school, that's what happened to us, right?
I mean, that's what still happens in today's day and age. I mean, you know, it's sad that is the reality, but the reality is that we as guys are the ones that have to start opening up and being
and we can make the change.
Exactly. Yeah, we are the ones that are in control of that, and it's for us to break that image or that stigma or whatever it is around that men are supposed to be, you know, hard and tough, and you know.
It's not like we need to go start like crying every other day either.
No, no, for sure. But whenever you want to be real, that you actually would allow yourself to be real in those moments, you know. Totally. And that's what builds these friendships, you know, that you and I have. That's what really roots a friendship as well, is that honesty, but that openness as well, and that you're not holding anything back, or I'm not saying, well, I'm not going to say this because then, maybe afraid of judgment, right? You're afraid of how someone perceives you.
And that's real man. Real men do not care what people think.
Amen.
Real men know who they are, and they don't care what people think. If they're living out something, especially like our Catholic faith, that has so many points of contention, and it's like, dude, when you're a man and you're living out the virtue that you're called to, the prayer that you're called to, the sexual morality that you're called to, like, guys, there's so many times with a group of guys that are like frequently having a lot of sex, and I'm like, I'm choosing to be chaste, and like how many times I've been, made fun of or something for that. In that moment, instead of being like, oh man, like just having the surety that, no, I know whose I am. I'm the son of a living God. This is so much bigger than me, and like having that peace, knowing that there's other brothers out there. Like I know there's other brothers out there that are trying to live this thing, man. So don't feel alone or ashamed. And I think the more that we can just be honest and really cultivate like masculine friendships that are rooted in Christ and rooted in real love. I mean, brotherly affection, brotherly love. Like that's what's going to really transform, the culture.
And maybe you're watching this, you're thinking, well, I don't know who, I don't know if there's guys around me that, I think that honestly there's a lot of more guys that you think around you that want that openness and that want to be open.
Yeah, they're just scared.
Yeah, so maybe it just starts with you, and you just, you go out on a limb there and then, see what happens. But, that's part of, talk about masculinity, right? That masculinity is missing in today's day and age in the culture, right? Is that true aspect of being open, being vulnerable, because that is an intricate part of being a man, is showing your emotions and discussing
Jesus
that.
wept.
Exactly. Yeah.
He was God.
Yeah. So.
But we also need, I think, just closing, like we need to be mentored. We need some man in our life that we can go to, whether it's a spiritual director or your father or an uncle or some man that that is living out his faith, trying to live, an authentic, virtuous life. Like we need mentors, dude. Like we can't do this on our own. Like we need guys that have gone before us that are, able to journey with us. So find someone that can really help cultivate, a life of joy for you in living out, authentic masculinity.
Who is one man in your life, right, that you've really looked to? It could be a saint, it could be a person who's living, that you've really looked to as an example.
I think for me, at least what I'm thinking of is like, it hasn't really just been one guy.
Yeah,
like,
that's the thing.
I'm thinking of like an army. I mean, I was thinking Padre Pio, Father John Burns, Father Mike Schmidt, like my dad. You go down the list, like I see an army of men that have gone before me that are here now that I turn to for so many different things that encourage me to really lay down my life for my bride, which, my bride's right now at the church, and that's how God's calling me to lay down my life right now. So, man, I just think of the cloud of witnesses of just men who've gone before us, like each with their own special gift and grace and mission. They're also different. I mean, Maximilian Kolbe, like I've been to his cell. That guy, that's powerful, know. But even just the dad, living out the day-to-day, like going to work, like changing the diapers, like cleaning up the poop. That's holiness.
In the reality of the day-to-day, there's so many guys like that, like Andrew's just saying, around us that show us that example in the day-to-day. And it's more so in the smaller than in the big things, right? It's in the things that go unseen.
Yes.
And that's where you see someone's true heart and what they're truly living for in the things that go unnoticed. People that are laying their life down for something more, that's really what it is about for me.
Yeah, and the epitome is Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, that is obviously when I'm reflecting on the Gospels and the person of Christ. I mean, God came in the form of a man, and that's our model. And I think a lot of these guys we're pointing to, they're just pointing back to Him.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Jesus, is the model. And doing things hidden, like the first 30 years of Jesus' life.
Yeah,
he did not post one tweet. Yeah. And he literally just made things. He was a carpenter.
Yeah.
I mean, this is God becoming man. Like the humility that Jesus shows in that reality is just so powerful. And I think real men doing things in loving and hidden ways, like that's powerful. Most of the time when we do something good, like we want people to know, right?
Oh, for sure.
We got that award, we got that thing, we got that girl, we got that, we got that on the field. I scored 20 points.
Yeah, exactly.
And Jesus, like the God man, came and literally entered into humanity for 30 years in silence. Like that's bold.
That is, yeah.
And I think that's honestly where men need to grow is in prayer. Like we don't really pray. Priests, bishops, I mean, I think all of us fathers, it's like, dude, prayer is like where men become men, you know? And that looks different for guys. You know, you're not called to do 6 holy hours every day. You know, it's going to look different, you know? But you got to find like that time to commune with God in silence. And that's where like the gifts and the fruits and the charisms that are going to fuel your ministry, your family, your life, that's where it's going to come. Real men pray.
Amen.
Boom. That's all for today.
Thanks for watching, and we'll maybe see you soon. Who knows?
Later.
Yeah, just like that.
Wait, what?
Perfect. Hold your teeth. Thank you. All right.